our podcast, episode 1. Today I'm going to introduce you to some extraordinary, ordinary, everyday people who are just doing amazing things in the world. And you're going to meet Eddie and Amethyst. And they are pioneering the world of sound healing and also revolutionizing the way the world understands and experiences cannabis and its healing properties. So I'm going to turn over here and say, hi, y'all.
Hello.
Hi. So, yeah, my dog is barking. So we met about a year ago when I attended a medicine ceremony. And it was really powerful to experience the music that you guys bring and the way you bring it and the frequency that you bring it in. And the more I heard your story, the more interested I was in how you ended up doing what you're doing and in the way that you're doing it. So I wanted to start by saying, how did you get here in this space where you are now? What got you here?
To be honest with you, I mean, we got to just give thanks to what it was, and it was the pandemic. You know, we were already doing our work with our cannabis patients. I've been doing that work for over almost 30 years now. So that was our complete drive was that before the pandemic happened. And Amazon Prime, Tubi TV came and did a documentary about my work. It's called About Cannabis and Cancer, of how it's helping cancer and AIDS patients. I was published in High Times magazine back in like 2008, 2009. So I was very accustomed in the cannabis scene before it became real legal. So when the documentary came out, there's already a few years of legalization, and a lot of people didn't understand about medical uses of cannabis. And me and her, that's all we really have been doing for a long time. So what we were doing was that the documentary was on Amazon Prime. You're able to go to Apple TV and watch this. But you know, before the pandemic, we were going to your home and playing it for, you know, they would reach out to me or Amethyst and say, oh, my mother, my brother, my sister, my friend, somebody that we know could possibly benefit from your guys' work. How can we get them more information? And Amethyst would set up a whole, we'll come to your home, play the movie for you and your family and your friends, and when you're done, you can ask us questions, and we could talk to you guys. And we would go in their home because we knew that a lot of them were eating a lot of the foods that were causing them to stay in sickness and illness. And Amethyst is an amazing vegan chef. And so we go in there and we just try to expand their mind more with the food and then how the medicine helped also. So when the pandemic hit, we could no longer go to anybody's houses. Everybody was afraid of getting sick.
Oh, wow.
The information that was coming up from the pandemic issues, I've been helping lung and pneumonia patients for 20 years with cannabis. We do know a lot of the positive effects of more oxygenation with cannabis, cannabinoids, and THC. So, and that was just with ALS patients and, you know, lung cancer patients. My research one-on-one with them. So when the pandemic hit, you know, people did start getting sick, and we started helping those people. A lot of them were nurses. Some of our friends were nurses that were directly in the front lines. They were getting ill, and you know, it's before any of the vaccines or any of those things were coming up. And so this is the very, very beginning of it. But what happened was the world stopped. So we stopped. We couldn't no longer go to your home and sit with you and express to you and learn you and help you in that way. We couldn't do that anymore. And she'll explain her whole lifetime of meditation, work, and her, I don't even want to call it religion background, but her spiritual guidance with her parents in churches and stuff. She knew a lot about meditation and things like that, and I've been using, you know, psychedelic medicine since I was 15. So cannabis is kind of like in that realm of, I would help people with cancer and AIDS and other issues, and then once we got them through those situations, we would bring them to shamans and give them to other work like ayahuasca and, you know, mushrooms and things like that. So I've been this whole kit and caboodle of plant medicines and things for over 20 years. So that just kind of pushes that.
Let me put a comma here because it's sparking a question, which is, I think I remembered you telling me that you had roots in the music industry.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Was that part of getting you where you are now, here in this moment?
Well, yes, it really did, because I was blessed with the great access of high-quality cannabis since I was a kid.
Musicians love cannabis.
And that's what happened. I grew up in the projects, and you know, in a pretty bad neighborhood in San Bernardino. I mean, in East LA, and then we moved to another one in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty bad neighborhood. And one of the gentlemen there was just one day, he was like, "Hey, man, you know, stop trying to sell weed or buy weed to us. You know, you're only gonna move to the next apartment over. you're never gonna get out of here. If you want to get out of here, you gotta learn what those people in the hills or the people passing through, what kind of gets their attention. And so I was a DJ, already DJing techno music and stuff, and that just pushed me into start doing more things and getting more into the music stuff. And the cannabis kind of just opened the doors. You know, a lot of jazz musicians and stuff love cannabis, and so I started interacting with people who are playing music, and I was around 15, 16. You know, in the projects, there's a lot of has-been musicians or, you know, never got to be a musician because they had to have a career. You know, a lot of military people were in the projects, and a lot of those guys, you know, play tons of different odd instruments. And so I really got in. I was growing up listening to Parliament, P-Funk, and James Brown. We just spoke about that a minute ago.
Yeah, we did.
My whole life was just raised and immersed in Parliament, P-Funk, Maze, you know, the whole funkadelic scene. My stepfather just immersed me in that sound of just quality, fun music, you know. So that just kind of pulled me out. The cannabis got me into better shows because, you know, smoke with this person. They're like, hey, you need to meet the guy throwing the party. And then so I meet the guy throwing the party, and then that guy was like, okay, you got a good cannabis, but what else do you do? I was like, I was a DJ. So then they'd, well, come and DJ and bring some of that good cannabis with you.
So would anybody recognize your DJ name?
Possibly. It might be. As you know, the old name was DJ Interact, and then
Okay.
that was in the
DJ
90s.
Interact.
When I was a drum and bass and trance DJ in the 90s, that was my name. And then I became a broadcaster on 99.3 KCLA FM in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I had 6.3 million listeners, and I was on the radio for 2 years.
6.3 million?
Yes, it's pretty interesting. That was the statistics they told me at the time, and this is 2000,
Wow.
2001, I believe it was. And then I changed my name to Diabolic Funxta.
Yeah, that is the best.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting because I was raised Catholic, so my grandparents and my family hated that name. And I told me it had nothing to do with demonic stuff. It was about the possession of the funk.
Oh.
When you're on the dance floor and there's a good bass line,
You
that
got
drummer's
that right.
killer. You are possessed with the funk if you want
you're
to.
right.
So I was the Diabolic Funksta. I wanted people to be just possessed with funk.
Oh.
And then, so on the radio, they didn't really. So that kind of molded itself by me being in studios. I was a drummer, and the music and the cannabis and like this world just immersed. I got pulled into Hollywood, and they were like, "Hey, come play the drums for us. Come put this sound together for us." And I was always open to play any instrument. And so I learned how to play a bass guitar, a keyboard, and I was a drummer. And so one day I walked into a studio, and there was an English engineer. And she's gonna laugh. She's heard the story a million times. It's so good. Knocked on the door, and you know, back then I was young. I was like 17. I looked like a thug. You know, totally looked like a thug. So I just got some old pictures of me. I'm like, man, I just look like a terrible kid. And so this English gentleman answered the door, and he was probably in his 60s, with glasses, bald head. He was the engineer, and he owned the studio. So when I walked in, he goes, "Yeah, oh, I got some hooligan here." And I've never heard these words because I'm from East LA.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's British guys using these big words. There's hooligans here, and I was like, "Oh, I'm here to play the drums." He's like, "Oh, you're playing." So I started playing the drum. He's like, "Oh, you play the funky drum."
Oh, dang.
And so I was like, "Cool." It's the more I started working with this guy, they pay me $50 to just play some drum riffs for some people's songs that were playing guitars and they just wanted to have samples of drumming. So I'd go do some stuff for them, and that just kind of evolved where they started calling me the funk drum hooligan. And it was all because this guy named Brent or Brett, I can't even remember, it was so long ago. And he'd always just make fun of the hooligans here to play the funky drums. So they all called me the drum funk hooligan. So then I started telling them, like, it just sounded too much to being drunk and I didn't like it. So
Yeah.
And that evolved into the drum funksta, which was Diabolic Funksta. Which once after I turned like 32 or 33, I got rid of the diabolic part. I wasn't really DJing anymore. I was mostly helping cancer patients and stuff like that. But my music and all of my connections with Hollywood, I did a lot of work with people from the Jay Leno show and Access Hollywood. I was very much immersed into NBC studios and stuff. Okay. So a lot of those guys knew the Funksta name. I was selling weed to a bunch of the editors and a bunch of the people in all of NBC studios. They all knew me I had big dreadlocks. And I had the persona of the whole cannabis culture at the time. I was in High Times magazine. All those things were pushing me to it. So I was traveling with Slightly Stupid, Marlon Asher, Cypress Hill. I was traveling with a lot of like big musicians and doing shows behind the scenes with them and stuff like that. So it was really fun, and I was really blessed just being in Southern California, being from here. And my dad told me when I was a kid that we live in Los Angeles, we walk on broken dreams. So be careful what you see in that little screen. And then when I got to Hollywood, I met the actors, and the actors were telling me, one thing, and then I met the editors. And my whole perspective of Hollywood changed. That 119 takes gave us a 0.3 of a second shot of this actor that we just praised. And I immersed myself into the editors. And the editors made everybody look good. And we knew how to edit things, and that's the magic is in the editing. And so that's
why you got your name, Eddie?
pretty much. My dad and my mom gave me that one. Yeah. So just all that world just helped us to where, again, we were sitting there in the pandemic, didn't know what to do.
Now, did you know her during your music days?
Not back then. We've been together for 6 years now, a little bit over 6 years. I've known her for probably about 7 years.
Okay.
And our whole interaction of collideness was with the Cannabis work.
Okay.
And another interview I was doing like this, I moved to Washington State for legal cannabis to start a legal company, and then that didn't work out, and I moved back here to California, and probably about the first 2 weeks I was back, I got asked to do a radio interview on NBC Talk Radio, and the people that were doing the interview, she reached out. There's a whole story about this on our documentary about cannabis and cancer, and she has her whole amazing story of how we interacted and found each other, and it was with cannabis medicine, and her mom was going through cancer, and it was a terrible situation, and from that there was a lot of answers in that, and then we just kept, her story was so impactful and so heavy that, you know, I've helped thousands of people, and it's just, her story was very personal, and it had, to be honest, extremely heavy, and that's one of the reasons why I really, like, cherish this lady, and she doesn't understand it, because she's always on the fly.
Oh, don't make me cry, Eddie.
She's always on the fly. She's always on the fly, and I'm always trying to ground her down.
Let me jump to you, Amethyst.
Great.
And I know it's a beautiful story, and it's a heavy story, but would you...
Love telling my testimony.
Yeah,
my
tell
story.
me your testimony.
So I fell into meeting, the way we started was my mother was ill. She was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer that had metastasized throughout her entire body. So we figured at that point that she wasn't going to be able to like recover completely, but we wanted to get her on some type of plant medicine regimen, because the medicines that we're giving her were making her hallucinate and giving her really bad experiences when she was transitioning. And my mother was very spiritual my entire life. I was raised in what we would consider a spiritual church, and so she never was afraid of death. And she always told me that it was the next journey, and that I shouldn't be afraid of going on to the next journey. So throughout my entire life, I had moments of fear.
She was considering the next journey as you being here without her?
But she was like, don't be afraid, even when I leave, you'll be going to your next journey and we'll meet again, you know? And I understood that, but at the same time, like, my mom, as a child, my mom would tell me these things, and I'd be like, okay, all right. So when my entire life, until I was 35, the woman was never afraid of death. I watched her in her own death process becoming afraid of death. And it didn't make sense to me, because I knew she knew. And I asked her, Mom, what's going on? And she's like, when you give me these medicines, I see darkness, it's scary, it's demonic. I don't feel good here, and it doesn't feel right. And so I was looking at the medications that I was giving her, and I looked them up because I'm a medical assistant and had at least some minimal knowledge, and I realized that they do give them hallucinations, they take them to dark space, and it's just not natural for my mom to be in that state of mind. And so I reached out looking for somebody who could help me to medicate my mom on a more, you know, medicinal plant medicine way, and have her transition in a peaceful, dignified way.
And in what city?
So I met somebody who knew him and was interviewing him and said, I know this man, he's in town, and he's, you know, he makes medicine. And so I said, awesome. He goes, I'm going to see if I can get some medicine, or at least connect the two of you together. And I was like, thank you, I really would appreciate it, because I've been going to dispensaries and places trying to find some medicine, cannabis medicine or something that's plant medicine to help my mom, and they don't know how to educate me on how to give it to her. They'll sell me anything, and then I don't know what to do. And he was like, oh, this guy will tell you. And I was like, cool, so if you could just meet us, you know, get us to connect, or I'll even talk to him on Facebook, whatever. And he ended up connecting with him and giving me one of Eddie's syringes of RSO, and he was like, this is the medicine.
Say it slow.
RSO.
RSO?
Rick Simpson.
Okay.
We have, hold on, let me grab.
The big one that's easier to show.
And so in this syringe of RSO
is 1,000 milligrams of THC, and it's full.
And THC is?
Say it, Beth, because I'm not sure to say exactly.
And I'm literally asking because I don't know.
It's tetrahydrocannabinols, and that's what THC is, or Delta 9. And as the government has found in their research, and many other doctors, Dr. Meshulam, if you want to know anything about cannabis, look up Dr. Meshulam.
So
show that up and pick it up. Show this.
Yeah.
So what it is we take the whole. So it's called. We call it RSO. The street slang lingo of it is Rick Simpson oil, which a gentleman from Canada. His name is Rick Simpson.
Okay.
He is a construction worker that hit his head at work, and he started to have bad vertigo and got really sick. And the doctors did all kinds of treatments to him, and then they kicked him out the door because they didn't know what else to do for him. So he went back home, and he was very sick, and he really nauseous, couldn't hold down foods, had a bad head injury.
Wow.
Opened up the American Pharmacopoeia book from 1858, and in it was a book that's called, there's a section of it called Indian Hemp Oil.
No.
And they grow the cannabis plant, and they take the cannabis plant and they put it in a bucket and they suck it with ethanol or ether or naphtha, this solvent that strips oils from paints and stuff like that. So it's a solvent that removes just cannabis oil, it's an oil. So when they take that, they boil it down, they cook it down, all you have left is this thick paste of the whole entire plant into one drop.
So it's an ancient process.
Yes, well before
sacred.
Before 1914, all laws came against cannabis. This exact product was used for two very important things I like to tell people. And one was one step before morphine. So if you're injured, hurt, dental surgery, and those things, they would rub cannabis oil on your glands, pull your tooth.
Wow.
If you got injured in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, and those things, first thing they'd give you, it would be this cannabis oil. And if you were dying, they'd give you morphine. So these are the two things they would give you.
Now you're holding two syringes, one's larger, one's smaller. Are they different?
Nope, one's
Same thing.
1 gram, and that's how we teach
It's a
people.
dosage.
And this is 10 grams. So sometimes on camera, this little one is hard to see.
Oh.
So we like to show the fat one on there because it.
Wow.
You can just see it, but they're oral syringes. There's no like needle. It's used
And
to
how would
take orally.
and I'm gonna get back to you because I'm riveted and I'm on the verge of tears
We'll
with
go
your
right
story
into her.
about
We'll
your
go
mom.
right back into her because this goes right into her.
Okay, so
This is what a lot of the issue was.
before I wanna move on before I move on, I wanna ask, how did we move away from this and become a morphine society and synthetic drugs, and when this was available and the knowledge was there?
One very simple thing, and it's a gentleman by the name of Rockefeller. So Rockefeller, it's
As in
the Rockefeller.
The Rockefeller
The
family.
Rockefeller
Okay.
family. So the Rockefeller was the guy that put up our railroad system, took control of our oil industry, created a pharmacy, created the grocery store. He
okay.
created all of these things, and he also created the 9-to-5 work job Monday through Friday. His whole thing was about control and owning everything. And the FDA and all these things, I don't want to get deep into conspiracy things about this stuff, but a lot of it is.
Yeah, because that
more-
kind of scares me, I'm not gonna lie.
No, but it's the truth.
Just
of
getting
all of
lost in the loop on the spiral of conspiracy, but.
it. Well, this is what ended up happening with her mom and what she was doing. She was going to cannabis dispensaries and she was asking for this, not asking for RSO.
But that's what I needed.
But this is what she needed.
That's what you
And she was trying to find what this medicine, because she didn't know about it, and a lot of people didn't know about it because it's kind of like an underground thing. The gentleman that came up with it, Rick Simpson, he was raided in Canada. They threatened to put him in prison for the rest of his life.
Okay.
He helped 2,000 people all beat their cancer and skin cancer, all because he wanted to stop having headaches and throwing up.
So Rockefeller was threatened by not having control and not being able to be.
It's a
Yeah,
pharmaceutical.
he wanted to own everything of the. It's such a big conspiracy of how much of what he controlled.
So I understand the way you're using
Yeah.
conspiracy now.
Yeah, and so what it was mostly that he wanted to control it all. So, and me being Native American background and my whole lifestyle was, born into it, is that I just don't believe a lot of the stuff that is told to us. Being raised in the projects, I was able to meet a lot of people that were experimented on, being in the military, and a lot of African American people that I met that were given syphilis and other issues. I've met them and I know them, and I heard how they got into the system and how the system did to them. And so all those things made sense to me of just learning more. And Rick Simpson's whole question about helping, how come the doctors couldn't tell me about this? And it was all because there's a law against cannabis and hemp and that was to suppress the people. So to get back to her story real quick, one of the things that cancer wasn't a big deal in the 1800s. In the 1700s and the 1600s.
And when you say not a big deal, you mean it wasn't running rampant like
No, it was a very rare.
It wasn't documented because in America, if you're an American, you had to grow hemp plants. It was a law. If you didn't grow hemp plants on your land and gave the hemp to the government to make clothes and rope for the wars, you were saw as treason and you were against America. So everybody grew hemp if you had land.
Yes.
So every American did their job.
In the United States.
In the United States. And so you would take those leftover trimmings from your plants, your hemp plants, your cannabis plants, you'd feed them to your livestock. Your livestock would have endocannabinoids inside of its body, which were getting rid of cancers and detoxing the body.
And we were eating the meat.
And we were eating the good, healthy, well taken care of.
And they were fertilizing our vegetables.
Yes.
And this is why our ancestry was super strong, powerful people. Our ancestry was, there's...
Never thought of that.
And so in 1914, some Mormons from Utah went to Mexico, went to TJ, and they brought back some of this Mexican smoke. And it was marijuana, and a pastor and a congregation of a Mormon church in Utah started the first law against marijuana, and it was in 1914. Then they took that whole initiative, went to Washington, Pennsylvania, met a gentleman by the name of Harry Anslinger, and told him that cannabis would make white women sleep with black men, and it was on after that.
Okay, wait a minute.
So and that was the actual text.
I'm trying not to get mad right now.
No,
that's hurting my feelings.
Yeah, so in 1937, this was all abolished. And since then was the problem with it. And then in 1970,
it was all abolished?
Yeah, you couldn't have cannabis no more. It was illegal, and that's when the jazz singers started singing about muggles. This is muggles.
That's muggles?
Smoking muggles, baby. You gotta get the muggles.
They had to keep it under wraps, but they all were still partaking because I myself use it for the same reasons those people use it. It helps inspire, but it also helps me relax. There's a lot of reasons why cannabis is good for us, and like he says, we have thousands of receptors in our body that are meant to receive that medicine in some way.
We have over 2,000 receptors just in our stomach. So in our dietary tract, we have so many receptors that are waiting to receive cannabis. When our body receives cannabis, we can detox ourselves, the body can relax and help us reallocate our actual system and get it back on track to where it's supposed to be.
Okay, so I'm going to cut a comment there. I want to hear the finish of your story, and then I have another question for both of you.
Definitely.
Okay, where was I?
And we gave you the syringe, and then you had it for your mom.
So he had Robert gave me a syringe. This is the gentleman that he was on the talk show, and what was it, NBC Radio?
NBC Talk Radio,
yeah.
It's a show called...
I Love San Bernardino.
That's the channel, I don't remember what he called. Talk of the Town is the radio.
Talk of the Town, and
and he's on NBC Talk Radio still today.
So Robert was like, here's this medicine, and when he originally gave me the package, it was in a Ziploc bag, and it had directions on how to administer it to my mother on the back, and it said to place the syringe into a capsule and do a rice grain size amount and give it to her daily, and if she could take more, then we would increase it. And I watched my mom go from being petrified and in fear from all of the medications.
Oh, wow.
So what I did is I stopped giving it to her those first. I would give her the cannabis, and if anything was not right, then I would consider any other meds that the doctors had given me. But because she was on hospice, I just wanted her to be okay. And I wanted her to die with dignity and not fearful and going through so much.
So this was for pain management in your instance, because she was on hospice and you knew she was passing. But if I'm understanding, this can also cure.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so I won't go here yet, but just wanted to make sure
But what I do know with any medicine is that the person who we're giving the medicine to needs to want to heal or transition, and my mom had already come to grips with transitioning, so I was just trying to help her ease out. That was pretty much, I just wanted her to have a blissful experience out. But if she wanted to fight it, I would have taken different steps and it would have been an increased amount and tried to fight with her if that's what she felt like doing.
Right, okay.
So I went from watching her be fearful and in a petrified state of telling me there's demons around her to blissfully laughing and giggling and being silly. The woman hated rap music and she started rapping. I tell everybody she was like, who's Mickey, I'm Mickey Garage, who's Nicki Minaj, like, you know, and I was like, what is going on here? And I told everybody, like, I'm just happy because the medicine, when I gave it to her, she only had a couple weeks after that, but she had a very good couple weeks. So the first week I gave it to her, she actually was able to talk again. She stopped being verbal and everything, and she came back, like, more life in her. We got to have some really meaningful conversations prior. My niece got to have moments with my mom before she passed. We all got to have these important conversations, and we got to all heal through her passing instead of it being scary and watching my mom suffering and being in a fearful state and stuff like that. So,
and what was put in her fearful state was the narcotics, was the morphine, the Depakote, was all the heavy narcotics.
They had her on fentanyl patches and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was just crazy.
And that's what my work showed me was helping many people like this situation, was that the medicine was very important. I've been making this personally myself for 15 years. I taught people how to grow the cannabis and how to make this oil themselves. I don't run a system that I have the answers. I do have the hope. And so in that, I've been able to directly drive this into people's spaces and see miracles happen just with one drop of this stuff.
Wow.
And the medical system, I've had conversations with some big pharmaceutical companies that asked me questions and wanted to know things and wanted to come up with a regimen to help the people, but I do know that they're not here to help us. And so what helps us is
or they don't have the capacity to know how to do that and be stuck in this game and this political spiral. And I know it's not easy to go against the status quo. It's not easy to break a cycle, and it's not easy to do the right thing even though you want to. So
trust me, I was so fearful with my mom because at first when I asked her doctors, can I give her cannabis, they were like, sure, but we don't know nothing about it, and they just don't want sure, whatever, we don't care. And I was like, oh God, well, can you write me a script so I can get her the medication? And they wrote me it, and then I go, and then nobody knew what to tell me to do, and it was just like, it's so taboo and they don't want to know more, but I knew in my heart what I was doing to my mother with their medicine was not medicine. And it was angering me because every time I would say, well, she's scared now, they give me another medication to take that way. I'm like, no, you guys, give her the medication you guys are giving her, and that's what's causing this.
Would you agree they're giving you what they know, they're giving you what they were taught, and they're kind of acting on fears that were taught to them?
Well, their taught is like this big of a book.
So it's not that they're bad, it's not that they're wrong.
They just don't know.
It's just that you have been introduced to a knowledge that you have witnessed has done miraculous things for people, and that not everyone's ready to hear that or embrace it. But I don't feel like it's them and us. I'm not getting that energy.
Oh no.
And they're bad, but you're just,
they just don't understand.
I was also extremely blessed with the drive of this purpose and this passion. You know, God put me on this effort very young. He showed me something at 12 years old, and in that vision, in that effort, in my life experience, that made sense. My uncle got AIDS, and he passed away in my family in 1989. And at 1989, where was AIDS? It was a big, what the heck? And it was a big stigmatism, and it was very hard, and my family's very hardcore Catholic, religious Christians. And they're split into two sects. You know, there's the Catholic side, and I have my Christian side of family. And witnessing my uncle, who was an extremely successful accountant. You know, he worked for Texaco. He was an accountant for Texaco in Long Beach. The dude was making money. He was had a good quality of life. He got AIDS, and he died before he was 30. And I got to witness that, and I got to see my mom and my aunt and all of my family just destroy and die. And when I was 12, they told me it was pneumonia, because I didn't, you know, they didn't want me knowing it was AIDS, you know. And so not until I was 17, I was told it was AIDS, and which was a pretty interesting concept. At the time I was 17, my mom sat me down and told me a story, and that was that my uncle had AIDS, and that was how he died. And literally 2 months later, I was standing outside of a local grocery store called Stater Brothers, getting signatures for Proposition 215, which was the medical marijuana law to help cancer and AIDS patients.
Wow.
So
you had come full circle, and you didn't even mean to.
Well, it did, and I did that, and I got the signatures. And then at the time getting the signatures, there was a Vietnam vet that was there with me, and I was 17. And he was like, "What are you doing here getting signatures for weed for, man?" He's one of those stoner kids, and he's like, "Do you even know what it's used for besides getting high with your friends?" And he started telling me about being in war and how it helped him sleep, how it gave him his appetite, and how the VA didn't help him much, and how cannabis helped him a lot, and that's why he was out there getting signatures.
Interesting.
Taught me a lot, and then I the law passed. I did good in my school because I did all these things. And the doors just kept opening, and then one day I'm sitting in Los Angeles, and we're at a cannabis, one of the first cannabis events, and this gentleman walks up, and he says this, I heard you have some pretty nice weed, man, can I try some? And I said, sure. Opened my jar up, I gave him a nug, and he sat down, he packed his little pipe, and a bunch of people came and started sitting with us, and then a bunch of photography people came and started taking a bunch of pictures. And I know I wasn't important, so I was like, who are you? What's your name? He was like, I'm Dennis Perone. And I was like, nice to meet you. He's all, you don't know that name? And I said, sounds familiar. He's all, I wrote the medical marijuana law.
Whoa.
And I said, wow, man, you're the guy? He goes, I'm the guy.
Whoa.
And for 10 years, I was his close friend, and he was a very good mentor to me, and he taught me about why he fought for cannabis, and his lover died, and there was a lady named Sister Mary, and Sister Mary used to bring brownies to the AIDS and cancer patients in San Francisco that were dying, and Brownie Mary was this hardcore advocate that just believed in cannabis for the passings of people's lives. And Dennis Perone said he wrote the law for AIDS patients, but he couldn't get it passed without cancer patients. Because AIDS had still big stigmatism in the 90s.
Understandable.
And so my whole drive was to make sure, and he told me the reason why I did this law because of my lover dying. And I said, the reason why I want to do this is for my uncle dying.
Oh, dang.
And so the whole effort has been constantly evolving. I've watched people get at literally deathbeds, start running marathons, creating life for themselves.
So do you feel like this is part of what you're called to do?
I believe I know it
And
is.
in that calling is raise awareness. Also give people a place to go to get information.
Yes.
Also to create a product that has a spiritual frequency and is infused with a lot of integrity and also the scientific medical uses and purpose of it. But even higher than that, are you hoping to create a space where a conversation can happen about how
Always.
we can create
Always.
a place for people to not only procure these incredible products that you're using that is actually curing cancer, as I understand it,
Definitely.
but also that you can maybe open a dialogue with the medical community so that some of these walls can come down, some of this language can be shared, some of this scientific study can be shared.
I'm definitely always pushing and hoping for that. The thing is that we need more open minds. And the dogmatic practices of our lifestyle has to be diminished at the door.
Okay.
And that's really a heavy effort to put upon the system today.
We're sending out a message to those of you with open minds that have access to the medical community.
Yes.
I'm going to have links on how to connect with Amethyst and with Eddie, and if you want to know more about some of the things they referenced, we'll also have links to maybe where you can find those interviews and the documentaries and things like this.
Definitely.
And before I segue into how this turned into sound healing, just wanted to say, is there anything else that I may have forgotten or that's on your heart that you'd like to say?
Watch the documentary. You share it with your friends and family. It's not about... There's no links on there to buy my products.
No, it's just
the information, the patients that are in there talking, her story and other patients that are in there are impactful, personal, they're real life situations. They're in your life, they're in my life, they're in everybody's lives. It's a simple understanding, and there's answers for questions people didn't know that they had. I talk about suppositories that I make, tinctures, capsules, topicals. We put this product in everything to help people. I make a product to put in feeding tubes.
And am I understanding that it also has helped animals?
I've helped farm animals. I help my own dogs.
Cats, dogs. Yep.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Snakes. Yeah.
We actually put our cream on our snake.
I'm not gonna lie. You left me a capsule that Joe gave me, and our mutual friend Joe. And some dropped, and Frances licked it off the ground. She was very peaceful for the afternoon.
I'm sure.
Oh, yes. Very nice.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we deal with a lot of, unfortunately lately we've been dealing with a lot of canines just because of just old age, hip injuries, cancers, things like that. I make a lot of custom products for animals. Everything I do is custom, so that's why I advise people to watch the movie, because there's there's no standard. I don't have like a website you can buy it because I talk to people one-on-one and I express, though, I need to learn who you are before I give. If you took this whole syringe, you would be pretty much in an ayahuasca ceremonial experience for 3 days.
For 3 days without having to take any more medicine.
And so we don't, and that's really hard for somebody that's trying to like feel better about their lives and try to battle something, you know. So we try to
lost myself, and I found myself, and now I lost myself.
Yep, you just keep losing and finding for 3 whole days.
Never bring that back to me again. So we don't want to have
Okay.
that. So we try to like definitely are open to helping people watch the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Apple TV,
Excellent.
YouTube, and it's called About Cannabis and Cancer.
About cannabis and cancer. And if you want to reach out and connect with Eddie, I will have his information at the bottom. If you have comments or questions, please just leave them on our channel. And thanks for stopping by. I'm going to ask them to just share their story now about how their incredible music came to be, and just their relationship with helping people heal.
So it happened with real simple was that, you know, again, the pandemic happened and I had to go get insurance for my son. He's 15 now. At the time he was like 12 or something whenever it happened. And they said, Medi-Cal, they told me I had to go fill out this stuff because I was trying to get him, some schools happening. And then they said, you need to file for health insurance. So I did. And I said, even if you get denied, we just need it so that you can have it. So I said, all right. So they file for unemployment. That's what it was, for the health insurance. So I filed for unemployment. I was like, but I'm on
self-employed.
Yeah. I don't have it. And they're like, well, just file for it. And the pandemic, they gave me the money. They gave me
we weren't trying to get any money.
They gave me a lot of money. You know, during the pandemic, they dropped a lot of money on some people. You know,
we weren't able to work. We were unemployed.
When the paperwork came, they asked if I wanted a card to go to Bank of America, and in my head, real quick, I was like, everybody and their mom's gonna be at Bank of America. You check this little box, you mail it back, and they'll send you checks. So I checked the little box, and one day I opened my bill box, and I'm not lying, there was 20 letters of checks from the state.
From the state for the pandemic money that was owed to him.
Take care of and I put the money in my bank and I sat on it.
Wow, look at my eyeballs.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing.
Then,
What?
so I sat on this money and I didn't want to touch it because I'm
You're
an
like,
American.
hey,
I'm an
what's
American.
What's
I know
going on
they're
here?
gonna give me taxes. So let's sit back in taxes. So
okay.
when taxes came, I talked to my tax lady, we did all this stuff, and the state sent me a letter, or the government sent me a letter saying if I had to pay the money back unless my taxes showed that I was self-employed. I've been filing self-employed for over 15 years, so I sent them my previous year's tax forms, and they sent me a letter back that told me to hold on to, that I owed no money to the government. The money was free of mine. So I started to look for properties and I've been looking for
But you wanted a healing property.
But you were actually the ideal candidate for what
it was for.
Yep.
We just didn't know
We
until
didn't know.
we applied
we didn't have no expectations of it. We were just kind of like, all right, let's just sit on this and let's make sure we're safe with it first. So we sat on it, and of course we had to use what we did to get through the whole situation that we created. And then when we got to a point, me and her just kind of sitting there. What are we gonna do? We're gonna buy a property, but I was like, we're not gonna be able. Nobody's want to come to the property and smoke weed with me. We're not going to be able to pay the mortgage.
I wouldn't do that.
Exactly.
No, see?
I wouldn't either. So,
just come here
sounds
to
like
do that.
I mean, it's not my thing anyway, but if it were, I wouldn't.
And so we had a very hard ayahuasca and yopo experience with the shaman of mine that I worked with.
In 2017.
And we had this heavy experience where we woke up in the hospital and it kept us in a very open space, and we were didn't know what to do with ourselves. Psychedelics are not in the effort. So the pandemic, when it came, it was happening. We got invited to a sound bath from our good friend today. His name's Devajit, and he had a studio called 8th Chakra Studio in Santa Ana. And so our good friend, she was a cancer patient. She was doing combo with him, and she goes, "Hey, I want you to come and meet him." And he's having a sound bath, and me and Amethyst were like, "Oh, we ain't doing anything. Not much is going on."
It was right when you still had to wear masks. Like you couldn't go nowhere.
And by the way, I just learned that combo is not COMBO. It's CKAMBO, and it's a specific medicine that's derived from a frog.
Yep.
That comes
monkey tree frog.
From that monkey tree frog. Okay, so when you heard that word combo, I didn't want you to
Combo's
think it was a combo.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't combo number 5.
Right?
And so he did this amazing sound bath where he offered us some new plant medicines that I haven't done since years ago, which was hape and sananga. So he gave us these 2 plant medicines that aren't psychedelic. They just kind of release your stresses and kind of put you on a
As
more
I
centered
understand,
focus.
Hape is also called rape at
Rape,
times, and
yep.
it's made from tobacco.
Yes.
And saranga is some kind of juice or
Plant root,
root, plant
It's a
root,
plant
and
root
it's something they put in your eyes.
Yes.
It doesn't impair your vision.
No,
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 it
no.
actually helps.
It helps, okay.
It can't help. It actually gets rid of a lot of negative energy.
Learn my lingo, friends, my
Yep.
plant
Yes.
medicine lingo.
The sananga is like habanero visine, and my God, it burns so hard. But it's like it releases so much like angst, anxiety, and just sadness from me, just instantly.
Okay.
And so we sat in this space. He did this hour-and-a-half sound bath, and it was like a closing of our ceremony that I had from the ayahuasca ceremony. With the
3 years prior.
that was really hard to deal with, and it just like sealed so many things that I woke up and I told the gentleman, I was like, man, that was great. I haven't had a sound experience like that in a long time. You guys put me through this journey and this meditation. It was really amazing. And on the way driving home, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go buy us a singing bowl. So I went and I had this money. I went and I bought a set of singing bowls.
We went to Calico and bought little ones first.
So we saw,
we wanted bigger
we saw those little singing bowls and we're like, these are cool, but then we needed some big ones. So we got the big ones. So I bought the big ones and I was like, I want these singing bowls. I started playing them and I was bored because I'm a drummer.
Oh, yes.
And I was having a great time with the singing bowls.
So that's when it happened.
It just started revolving from there.
So we started to incorporate what sounds, but also I've been meditating, and didn't realize I was meditating since I was 4 years old. And then during the pandemic, while we were having this moments of being stuck at home, I was wanting to get outside so bad. I just wanted to be places, but I was realizing that just wasn't a very good thing to do right now.
Everybody was
So I bought some tapestries along with some of these instruments that he had gotten. And then I was like, let's meditate. I think that would be good for us right now. I think we should try and meditate and just go within. And because I feel like everything that was being shown to me from the TV, news, and then just people hearing these things.
It was hard on your system.
It was very hard on my system.
Yeah,
it was overwhelming.
I went through that
to me.
too.
It was overbearing. I'm like, what do I do? I
Plus
can't
the
do
guilt
anything.
of my binging on Netflix.
Yeah.
Totally.
Watching weird shows on Netflix, and I was like, what am I doing? I don't do this, but I was doing it, you know.
So you started
And I started to meditate, and I was like, this comes just naturally, and I said, and then even he was like, I want to incorporate these sounds. And
then I know where she found this course to get certified for meditation.
Yes.
So she was like, she was actually trying to get certified for yoga. And then the meditation, she just got so immersed in the meditation that she was like, I've been learning this my whole life in church.
That became a
and it was like really, it was riding the bike for her.
Wow.
It was
so
like, you know how to do this, so why are you taking this course? And I was like, I'm taking this course so I can remind myself that I already knew this. I went
to my best friend's house, and he was like seeing the gongs and the sound baths and the didgeridoos and the things, these instruments I was buying and learning. And because I come from a traditional musical background, guitars, bass guitar, drum set, percussion, stage,
microphones,
Earth, Wind and Fire, go. You know what I mean? So, and then I was like, but they don't have gongs and singing bowls. And
they don't have handpans
either. I was transitioning my stage professional performances to how do I put us on the ground with people with us. Okay. And so I go to my best friend's house. He's like, you ever heard of a handpan? And I was like, what is that? And he put it on. And I was blown away. I was like, this instrument is like a drummer, a keyboard, and a bass guy all in one.
It's like the universe in one thing.
Totally was.
So I'm going to fast forward and wrap this because I want to hear you play, and I know they want to hear you play. But your journeys brought you together.
Yes.
Definitely.
Also shifted you into, you became one, but you also created something unique together, where you got to express your work, and you got to express your work, and you both got to share in the healing of the people, and brought you to where you are now, which is you offer music for people who are doing the sacred medicine work.
Definitely.
And offering the plant medicine and taking them through their journeys through your music.
We journey them, yes. That's what we do.
So we do that with ayahuasca ceremonies,
we're gonna let you experience some of this beautiful sounds from Eddie and Amethyst. And this is a real treasure because Eddie does not record his music.
Not very often,
It's for people who are in ceremony, and he wants them to come. It reminds me of the Native American concept is, if you want to learn the songs, come to Circle.
Amen.
And so if you want to experience the songs, then you come to experience ceremony, and they'll have some links in that if you're interested more in their plant medicine journey, their sacred plant medicine journey, not a recreational use by any means.
No.
And with that, I'm gonna sit here. If I feel like humming along, can I?
Please.
Okay.
And this was my birthday handpan that I just got. It took
Yeah,
4
from-
months to get. So these are handmade.
Your hand pan is
Nice.
handmade?
Yeah, this is-
Hand by with hands.
And this is from a local guy here in Los Angeles area. He's from Glendale,
Uh-huh.
and his name is Jay, and his company's called Acolyte Instruments.
Acolyte Instruments.
And this is a Nirvana.
Shout out to you. Thank
Yep.
you.
And this is his custom, which is a Nirvana handpan, and so.
Nirvana as in the group?
Yep, and he calls himself Nirvana handpan, so he's.
The custom ones are called Nirvana pants.
Oh,
Yep.
but not because of the group Nirvana.
No, not because of the group,
Okay,
no.
okay.
That's
I'm just saying, 'cause
yeah, no.
if I was watching, I'd be like, Nirvana played this?
But that's the easy way to find him. You just type in Nirvana and then put handpan.
Okay.
Yeah, really easy. And so yeah, this was a very special pan that I wanted made for ceremonies. So it's a really nice one. So we'll play a little something. It goes like this.
All right.
No, it's because I was having fun.
Well, if you could feel what I feel in the room, I can't explain it. I want to cry and laugh and dance and curl up and be cozy. There's a frequency here that's kind of indescribable. But thank you guys. Thank you as my friends, but thank you for what you do for the world. Thank you for how you show up. And the segment of this is called Making Weird Sacred. And I think we just have to claim back that word.
Mm-hmm.
And that sacred is not weird.
No, definitely not.
And that you just shine your light and have the courage to do what you were called here to do. Otherwise, you die with your medicine inside of you. So again, thank you. I'm Gingi. If you want to know more about me, I'm a spiritual artist. I am a spiritual musician. I am a spiritual jewelry maker. And there's some links on the below, and you can check me out. And if you want to attend an event or hang out with cool people like this, we'd love to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, how beautiful when your community starts growing and all the people you love start showing up for you. I want to introduce you to our podcast episode number 2, Finding Your Voice. And you're going to just experience the beauty of the story of Gil and Vicky. And so we're going to end this podcast with us all just vibing you out on some beautiful tunes together.
Viva.
You ready? Viva!
Yes.
Can I hum?
Of
Please.
course.
Open heart. That is the message from Eddie and Amethyst to all of you. Aho.
Aho.